Wandering Winder here to continue my look at the opening series. This time we want to look at Stampede. So, yeah, the first thing we want to note with Stampede is that if you have the 5-2 exactly, you can open Stampede. And, well, if what you want is a 5 cost, I don't think that there tends to be much advantage or disadvantage to opening the 5 cost directly versus getting the Stampede. The biggest disadvantage I can think of is that if you're player 2 and there's smugglers on the board, if you open Stampede and get the 5 cost on turn 2, then your opponent has some chance of smuggling it on turn 3. Versus if you buy it on turn 1, then yeah. I guess the actual biggest downside is you don't get to buy the 2 cost on turn 2. But let's assume that there is no 2 cost that you want. The upside of stampeding on turn 1 is that maybe you hit 5 on turn 2 without having to play this last horse. But for this to work out, you're top decking some coppers here. So it's not clear to me that you wouldn't rather play the horse anyway, for most cards that you'd be getting at least. So yeah, I tend to not really think that Stampede on turn 1 is very important, with the huge exception of if you're trying to hit for some price point bigger than 5, turn 1 Stampede is great because you just guarantee hitting 6 or 7 as you want, right? Turn 2, I've hit 7. I could inherit now. I would be very, very happy. But also even just here, like, oh, border village with my rogue. That seems good. Well, I don't know. Rogue and Tormentor aren't exactly great 5s, and Tormentor isn't a great 5 to have the village with necessarily, so maybe it's not the biggest deal ever, although Haven isn't something you want either, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. The point is, turn 1 Stampede, if you're trying to hit 5, isn't really a big deal, but if you're trying to hit more than 5, or if you at least like to hit more than 5, then that can be very good. That could be very good. But the other thing to note about Stampede is, well, apart from just the turn 1 scenario, the turn 2 scenario, you typically, unless you really want to hit 6 or 7, you don't usually want to Stampede on a 2-5 because, right, if I just buy the 5 cost directly on turn 2, I might be able to play it on turn 3. If I Stampede on turn 2, I certainly won't be able to. The other thing, apart from just the turn 1, turn 2 stuff is, let's say I opened like silver, silver. And if I hit Stampede on turn 3, well now, right, I can be pretty likely, although not guaranteed, to hit 5 without hitting this shuffle on turn 4. And if I want to play everything again, I can hit 6 or 7 or more. So all in all, Stampede is actually not a very important thing in the opening, I don't think, unless you have it on turn 1 exactly and you're trying to hit more than 5. But it's, in general, if you're trying to hit more than 5, it can be a powerful tool to do so. Pretty much as soon as you can Stampede, the next turn you're going to hit 6 or 7. Just keep in mind you're buying nothing effectively for a turn in order to be able to do that. Unless you already have something like Procession in your deck or something, in which case you're also, any throne room you're actually netting more, that kind of thing. But yeah. Not much to cover with Stampede, actually, I don't think. Just think about what the rest of your deck is. Think about, okay, if I Stampede now, then next turn I play all the horses, and I buy this, and I end up at this point, like, say, 2 turns down the road, versus if I just buy a thing directly, where do I end up 2 turns down the road? And, of course, make sure you don't have more than 5 cards in play. So that's an important thing, too. Yeah, thanks for watching.